The trade war between the United States and China never really ended. It just went quiet. But now, it's roaring back to life. In recent months, Washington has rolled out a fresh wave of tariffs on Chinese goods, from electric vehicles and semiconductors to medical supplies and batteries. In response, Beijing has struck back with its own restrictions, targeting critical materials like rare earth elements and graphite, materials vital to the US tech and EV industries. This is no longer just a trade dispute. It's an economic power struggle, one that's rippling across nearly every US industry, from manufacturing and energy to technology and retail. Let's break down what's really happening and how it's reshaping the global business landscape. The first wave of tariffs in this new round hit earlier this year when the US imposed duties as high as 100% on Chinese-made EVs and major tariff hikes on steel, aluminum, and solar panels. The goal? To protect domestic industries that the White House says have been undercut by unfair Chinese subsidies. The message was clear. America wants to bring production back home, or at least closer to home. But there's a twist. The more the US tries to decouple from China, the more complicated global supply chains become. Because let's face it, China isn't just a factory anymore. It's the backbone of production for thousands of US businesses. Even when something says made in Mexico or assembled in the US, odds are key parts still trace back to China. Take the auto industry. The new tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles were meant to protect American car makers like Ford and GM, but they also affect US companies that rely on Chinese components, like lithium batteries, microchips, and wiring harnesses. In fact, many EV parts come from Chinese suppliers even when the final car rolls off an American assembly line. That's why analysts warn these tariffs could actually raise costs for US automakers rather than save them. Then there's the tech sector. Semiconductors, the brains of everything from smartphones to fighter jets, are at the center of this trade war. The US has restricted China's access to high-end AI chips, citing national security concerns. But China has retaliated by limiting exports of gallium and germanium, two rare materials essential to chip making. That move sent shockwaves through the semiconductor supply chain and reminded everyone just how intertwined the two economies remain. American tech giants like Apple, Nvidia, and Qualcomm are now facing tough decisions. Do they diversify manufacturing to countries like Vietnam, India, and Mexico? Or do they risk losing access to the massive Chinese consumer market? Either choice comes with costs. And that's exactly what makes this new era of US-China relations so tricky. It's not just about trade, it's about economic security, technology dominance, and political leverage. The energy industry is feeling it too. China currently dominates the global solar panel market, controlling over 80% of global production. With new tariffs on Chinese solar components, US renewable energy projects are seeing costs rise. For companies trying to meet clean energy goals, that's a real problem. Some are now turning to domestic suppliers or investing in American-made alternatives. The Biden administration's Inflation Reduction Act has already channeled billions of dollars into building US solar and battery factories. But scaling up takes time. And until then, supply bottlenecks could slow America's green transition. The retail sector isn't immune either. From Walmart to Target to Amazon, most American retailers still rely heavily on Chinese manufacturing for consumer goods. With tariffs adding costs to everything from clothing to electronics, companies are quietly adjusting, shifting some production to Vietnam, India, and Bangladesh. But these new hubs can't match China's scale or efficiency overnight. That means consumers may soon feel the effects too, through higher prices on store shelves. Meanwhile, investors are watching this situation closely. Markets have already shown signs of nervousness as tariffs escalate. The Dow and Nasdaq have both seen volatility spikes tied to new trade announcements. Corporate leaders are warning that if tensions keep rising, business investment could slow, especially in sectors like manufacturing and logistics. Jamie Dimon recently said, "The global economy is entering a phase of selective globalization." That means rather than full decoupling, countries are choosing where they want to compete and where they still need to cooperate. And that's where things get interesting. Despite all the friction, the US and China still depend on each other deeply. China remains America's third largest trading partner. US companies earn billions in revenue from Chinese consumers. Even as Washington talks tough, American CEOs continue to visit Beijing, hoping to keep business ties alive. But beneath the diplomacy, both nations are racing to build economic independence. The US is investing in reshoring critical manufacturing, chips, defense materials, rare minerals, while China is doubling down on self-reliance, especially in AI, renewable energy, and EVs. This dynamic is setting the stage for a new kind of global competition, one not defined by open trade, but by strategic control. So what does all this mean for American businesses? In the short term, it means uncertainty. Companies will face rising costs, shifting supply chains, and unpredictable policy swings. In the long term, it could reshape how global commerce works. The next generation of supply chains will be shorter, more regional, and more politically influenced. US firms might rely less on China, but they'll have to spend more to rebuild domestic capacity. The winners in this new landscape will be those who adapt early, companies that diversify suppliers, invest in automation, and form regional partnerships. Because here's the truth. This isn't just a trade war anymore. It's a competition for the future of global power. And every tariff, every supply chain shift, every chip factory being built in Arizona or Texas is part of that larger game. The US-China economic relationship defined globalization for 30 years. Now, its unraveling is defining what comes next. Whether you're in manufacturing, tech, or retail, the ripple effects of this new Cold War are already here. And as tensions rise, one thing is becoming clear. In the new era of trade, security and control are the new currencies of global business.